It is the first week of term and 10-year-old 𝗀𝗍𝗵𝗶𝘀 is getting ready for school. 𝗀𝗍𝗵𝗶 lives with her mother and grandmother in 𝗀𝗍𝗵𝗃 Township in Makhanda in the Eastern Cape. A supportive home environment and access to a school where teachers are able to give their learners one-on-one attention has meant that 𝗀𝗍𝗵𝗃 is an extreme outlier in South Africa, a grade 4 learner who is reading at a level much higher than expected for her age. So this is your reading corner?
This is the shelf where I keep my books.
Okay.
This is where I sit. This is where I put my bag, and these are the books.
So do you have favorite books that you like to read? Do you love reading that one?
Yes.
Would you mind reading me a little bit?
Gina woke up the next morning to find the sun shining through her bedroom curtains. Birdsongs twittered from the nearby trees, but it was so early that she could not hear any cars going past on the road outside.
Why do you think you're so good with reading?
I think it's because when I was in grade R, I started looking at picture books, and then I saw books with like actual words. Then my mom helped me read those words.
But the majority of children of 𝗀𝗍𝗃's age and background are falling far behind. Makhanda in the Eastern Cape is a microcosm of South Africa's unequal education system. Here are some of the country's most exclusive schools and a top university. But it is also a place of deprivation and a community at the forefront of one of the country's most under-recognized crises. The majority of young children here cannot read. They are not alone. In 2016, 78% of South Africa's grade 4s could not read for meaning in any language. Across the way from 𝗀𝗍𝗃's home, grade 3s at 𝗀𝗍𝗃 Primary are revising their English reading lessons. Many struggle to keep up.
So we have how many characters?
Due to a staff shortage, Ms. Mandisa Peter is 𝗀𝗍𝗃 Primary's only teacher for grade 2 and grade 3. She has 58 children who rely on her almost exclusively for reading instruction.
Finger space.
How does it feel when you meet a child who cannot read?
You feel so sad and frustrated because it reflects what is happening in class, because you know there's an ability to that child. It's just that she or he didn't get that one-on-one support.
Another critical priority is to substantially improve reading comprehension in the first years of school, and it is possibly the single most important factor in overcoming poverty, unemployment, and inequality. If we are to ensure that within the next decade, every 10-year-old will be able to read for meaning, we will need to mobilize the entire nation behind a massive reading campaign.
President Ramaphosa made this one of 5 fundamental goals for his term in office. But 4 years later, education experts agree that there is no massive reading campaign underway in the country. Though other priority areas for the Department of Basic Education are well funded, Minister 𝗀𝗍𝗵𝗃 has allocated virtually no budget to improving reading outcomes. Despite that red flag, 𝗀𝗃's Director General told Parliament last year that a national reading plan was implemented by all provinces. But this secretive plan has never been published, and progress towards its supposed implementation has never been made available for public scrutiny. Whatever the department is doing, it is evidently not enough. With learning losses due to COVID-19, it is projected that a higher percentage of children cannot read today compared to when the president made his grand commitment in 2019.
Every 10-year-old will be able to read for meaning.
It's teachers at schools like 𝗀𝗍𝗃 Primary in Makhanda who are at the co-face of the reading crisis in the country. They're still waiting for support promised by the president 4 years ago, and it is their learners whose only hope of escaping poverty is learning to read who are left behind.
And those are the two kind of big categories
Professor 𝗀𝗧𝗶𝗶𝘀 is an education economist at Stellenbosch University and a member of the Reading Panel 2030, a civil society organization set up to monitor progress towards the president's goal.
40 of these 50 can't read. I think they would be shocked.
Sitting here in 2023, would you classify this as a crisis? And if so, why?
The fact that 78% of grade 4 children cannot read for meaning in any language. All 11 languages were assessed. If that's not a crisis, I don't know what a crisis is. And obviously, if you don't have a plan and you don't have a budget, there's not going to be any progress. And then we're really surprised by why children drop out, why we have such high levels of youth unemployment. It's not a surprise to me.
𝗀𝗫𝗿𝗶𝗴𝗶 is the General Secretary of Equal Education and another member of the Reading Panel.
Give us the bigger picture if things don't change.
If we've got the vast majority of learners in the education system in no-fee-paying schools unable to comprehend words, read for meaning, think for themselves, it means that we lose innovation, creativity, critical analysis that lends itself to a massive skills deficit in South Africa's near future.
But that scenario is already a reality. A lack of reading comprehension tops the list of skill shortages in South Africa's labor market.
What has the Department of Basic Education done to implement reading programs?
The Department of Basic Education, both at a national and at a provincial level, aren't doing enough to put in place an adequate plan, something that's comprehensive and measurable, that can make sure that we can evaluate and see improvements in outcomes in learning in schools through reading. The department has absolutely failed in this regard. And to me, it feels shameless around its failures.
Now, a public records request by investigative newsrooms Viewfinder and GroundUp has unearthed for the first time what the department claims as its national reading plan. This plan is in fact not a plan at all. It is just a long table with a list of 47 activities. Some, like improved reading resources in classrooms, are desperately needed interventions. Most, however, are so abstract as to border on the absurd, such as encouraging food companies to follow the 𝗀𝗵𝗋𝗀 bubblegum example of putting reading materials in their packaging. But who is tasked and accountable? How are these activities to be funded? How is progress supposed to be monitored? Those questions are all left unanswered. The Department of Basic Education has claimed in Parliament that it and the 9 provinces are implementing a national reading plan. But our exclusive access to this document has exposed a huge disconnect with what's happening in schools on the ground.
Well, first of all, thanks Carte Blanche for getting it. None of us had access to this plan, and I didn't actually know that it existed. There's a whole laundry list of things there, right? It's still not in the public domain. There's still no budget for it. There's still no reporting against it. I do think it's a wish list.
When we accessed the provincial progress reports for this plan, the department asked us not to share these publicly to protect certain officials' identities. And we're not surprised. These reports show that the plan's implementation is a random, uncoordinated mess. While some provinces, like the Western Cape, appear to be doing their best to fund and implement localized reading plans, others, like Limpopo, appear to be doing almost nothing.
A lot has happened. It's not as if nothing has happened.
Dr. Stephen Taylor is the department's head of research, monitoring and evaluation.
From the plan that we have that is not public, it is not a proper plan. Do you think that the Department of Basic Education is doing enough to make sure that we meet the President's goals of 2030 to make sure that children are reading for meaning?
Well, I think it would be very unfair to call the existing plan and the weaknesses in the implementation against the existing plan an abject failure because of the timing of this plan. This plan was something that was approved just before the pandemic set in, and we had to respond to the priorities caused by the pandemic.
I think what we perhaps wanted was, what is the Department of Basic Education going to do from now on?
So I think a new revised plan that we're working on, it needs to succeed in bringing better coordination to the sector.
You saw the pictures, wasn't it? And then what do you think the story is about?
For teachers like 𝗵𝗶𝗀𝗶𝘀, one need stands out amongst all others. She's completely overwhelmed by the sheer number of children looking up to her. In South Africa, the ratio of teachers to learners is ever worsening. And with a looming retirement crisis in the sector, the situation is only expected to get worse.
What type of support do you need as a teacher in this phase of learning?
They must just send us teachers, enough teachers who can assist the learners in class.
A message that you'd like to deliver to the Department of Basic Education, what would that message be?
I think I would tell the minister the time for talk is over. The time for saying we're going to do things is over. You need to act. You need to allocate budget and you need to act.
Right arm, left arm, right foot. Father Abraham has many sons.
What will happen to all of your beautiful children in your class if they didn't grasp how to read with understanding? What would their future look like?
Their future, it's not going to be good because you failed them, not giving them all that you can give because you are one and there's a lot that is looking from you. Has many sons,